For the first time in 4 years, Carthage Firebirds men's lacrosse is 5-0 to start the season, but it was not easy. The Firebirds spent much of yesterday's contest against a competitive Calvin Knights team down, albeit in a back-and-forth affair that never saw either team take a lead by more than 2 goals. In the end, though, it was a 2-goal lead for the good guys. That was enough, as the Firebirds cranked up the defense late in the contest, forced a couple costly Calvin turnovers, and came away with a 10-8 victory. Today, the Firebirds try and accomplish the difficult feat of winning games in consecutive days, although they're playing as many games in as many days as the Lawrence University Vikings program has played in school history. The Appleton-based university announced it was adding men's and women's lacrosse as its 23rd and 24th sports back in February 2023. 2 years later, here are the Vikings in their first season as a program, with the men's team coached by Mikey Zadroga. In this, their inaugural season, Lawrence has yet to play a home game, and in their 2 games thus far, one saw them fall at Trine while they played Carroll Tough at Schneider Stadium, but ended up falling by a single goal. Zadroga's Marquette career was injury-plagued, but he learned a lot from a man who knew a thing or two about building a program from scratch, Joe Amplo, the first coach of Marquette's program, who took the Golden Eagles from absolute nothing in 2013 to a team that hosted a game in the Big Barbecue, the NCAA Division I men's lacrosse tournament, in 2016. Amplo is now coaching the program at the U.S. Naval Academy, and today, with the waters of Lake Michigan less than a mile from where he stands, Zadroga might find some difficult sailing against a veteran of the seas like 17-year Carthage head coach David Neff. But for the Firebirds today, the goal is to sink the Viking ship and navigate onward, continuing their unbeaten campaign. From Art Keller Field in Kenosha, Wisconsin, it's time for Carthage Firebirds Lacrosse. Good afternoon, everyone. Dan Pfeifer with you for the third time in less than a week here at Art Keller Field, as today it is the Carthage Firebirds with that unbeaten record of 5-0, coming off a victory yesterday against Calvin, going up against this brand new Lawrence Vikings program, which enters today 0-2. Good to have you on board on a day very similar weather-wise to what we saw yesterday here at Art Keller Field, even though the wind is blowing out of the south today. Unlike it blowing from the north-northwest yesterday, 32 degrees. It is literally freezing here at Art Keller Field. However, that wind is much less of a factor. It's just 2 miles per hour. You can see the flags off in the distance on the far side grandstand, just barely moving as that wind comes out of the south. Sunny skies, a few clouds overhead, nothing too much to worry about. Certainly not like it was on Wednesday night when we had rain, or yesterday when it was bitterly cold, despite the temperatures being just above 20. To the matter at hand, and today's game, pop the starting lineups up on screen for you, as the Carthage Firebirds will go with their regular starting lineup today, going up against this Lawrence team in the second game of second days. For the Firebirds today, we will see Andrew Johnson on the attack. Sam Wallace will be a long stick midfielder for the Firebirds. Jacob Cameron, Jake Westland, Jake Williamson will help things out for the Firebirds. Williamson in goal for Carthage, appearing again today after doing an outstanding job yesterday against Calvin. George Mobrotten, Ben Kroc, Josh Flores, Alec Gurn, and Andrew Fry will complete the starting lineup for David Neff and Noah Linder and the Carthage Firebirds. On the other side, for the Lawrence Vikings, Robbie Spielman will be in the starting lineup today. He's an attacking midfielder out of New Berlin, went to Eisenhower High School. Gavin Ryder, Devin Cooper, Zach Sokolowski, Carter Walroth, Logan Marsh, Brody Hare, Zachary Bro, Henry Hayes, and Emmett Eichens complete the starting lineup. It will be Ryder in goal. He is a freshman out of Highlands Ranch, Colorado. To give you an idea of the 10 starters for Lawrence, 9 of them are freshmen, unsurprising for a first-year program. Getting set to go here at Art Keller Field. You can see that the Carthage Firebirds are all lined up, ready for the introductions and the anthem. And in a few moments, we will toss it over to Olivia Rogers for the national anthem. This is probably the toughest opponent that the Lawrence Vikings have faced thus far in their young history as a program. So we will see how today will go, and our expectation is that you might see some of Carthage's depth come out if this game starts to get out of hand. But first things first, the Firebirds do need to take care of business, and as mentioned, it's not the easiest thing in the world to win consecutive games in consecutive days when you're playing lacrosse. This is a tough physical sport. And certainly yesterday's game was a physical one, a bruising one, in which the Firebirds had to really fight hard to beat that Calvin team, which was also playing its second game in 2 days yesterday. So let's see how the Firebirds come out today. We'll toss it over now to the other booth and Olivia Rogers for our introductions.
Good afternoon, fans, and welcome to Art Keller Field for today's game between Lawrence University and your Carthage College Firebirds. Let's go ahead and meet today's starting lineups. First, for the visiting Vikings. At attack mid, number 2, Robbie Spielman. As the face-off specialist, number 7, Devin Cooper. On defense, number 12, Zach Sokolowski. On defense, number 25, Carter Walroth. At attack, number 27, Logan Marsh. At midfield, number 29, Brody Herr. On defense, number 44, Zachary Bro. At mid, lawn stick middle, number 77, Henry Hayes. At mid, number 88, Emin Ishins. And in goal, wearing number 4, Gavin Reeder. The head coach of Lawrence is Mikey Zagragoda, and he is assisted by Brian Halona, Matthew Ruskovich, and Connor Zillage. And now your starting lineup for your Carthage College Firebirds. At attack, wearing number 1, Andrew Johnson. At long stick middle, number 8, Sam Wallace. Playing midfield, number 20, Jacob Cameron. At midfield, number 22, Jake Westland. On defense, number 26, George Bo Bratton. At midfield, wearing number 30, Ben Kroc. At defense, wearing number 32, Josh Flores. At attack, wearing number 40, Alec Gurn. At midfield, wearing number 45, Andrew Fry. And in goal, wearing number 25, Jake Williamson. The head coach of Carthage is David Neff, and he is assisted by Noah Linder. Fans, at this time, we ask that you please rise if you are able and remove your caps as we honor America with the playing of our national anthem.
With the Star-Spangled Banner complete here at Art Keller Field, it's time for some lacrosse action. And as mentioned, this is a young Lawrence program. Taking a look at their roster, interestingly, Iori Yamada, as you see their starting lineup pop up on the screen, not out there in the starting lineup today. He is one of 4 Lawrence Vikings who is tied for their current lead in terms of goals scored with 2. He has taken the most shots, though, with 10, and he also has 2 assists. He is an exchange student from Tokyo, Japan, and in many ways, he has some of the best statistics for the Vikings thus far. However, he does only have a start in 1 of 2 games that the Vikings have played. As mentioned, Robbie Spielman also has 2 goals. Judah Goring has 2 goals, although he has not gotten a start yet. And Logan Marsh also has 2 goals. You do see him in the starting lineup for the Vikings as well. Over on the other side, so many superlatives for the Carthage Firebirds. Thus far this season, of course, Andrew Johnson, the reigning CCIW Offensive Player of the Week. He comes in leading the Firebirds with 14 assists. That is more assists than the Lawrence Vikings have goals through 2 games, although the Firebirds have played 5 contests thus far. But we talked about it at length yesterday during the game against Calvin, how Andrew Johnson really personifies what this attack stands for. They want to find guys on quick cutters. They don't want to have to worry about making a dodge and trying to beat the goalie. They want it to just be one touch on net and in. And Johnson really is the one who is the best at finding his teammates and setting things up for that sort of situation. The goalies touch gloves, handshakes among the players out on the field. Officials even give each other some high fives, and we are set for lacrosse here in Kenosha. Pretty standard day again for the month of February here along Lake Michigan. The lake right behind us. Carthage right on the shores of Lake Michigan. You go up north to Concordia University, Wisconsin, and Mequon, north of Milwaukee. They're also on the Lake Michigan shores. Great place to have a university. Set for the face-off. Out there right now is Chad Coleman for the Firebirds. He fights with Henry Hayes. Hayes, interestingly, 0 of 2 on face-offs to start the season, whereas Chad Coleman has been an incredible 48 of 63, 76%, and guess what? He gets a face-off win to start things off, although the Firebirds turn the ball over, and it goes to Lawrence. They will try and go on the attack for the first time today. However, that pass is not good. Jacob Cameron takes it away, and now it is the Firebirds going on the attack. So some of what we saw yesterday, there was a significant amount of scrambling on clears and loose balls in the midfield. It seemed like just finding each other's sticks was a problem for both teams yesterday. Carthage going to try to work on that today. Just be sharper with their passes, particularly connecting things from the long poles in the back to the shorter poles on the midfield and up front. That is Ben Kroc making his way to X. Alec Gurn. Johnson in the back. If you have been watching a lot of lacrosse through live.carthage.edu, these names should all be familiar to you. Shot on. Goes off the crossbar, bounces all the way back to midfield. Scrap for possession. It is picked up by Carthage. They'll send it over to the far side. Carthage wearing their, in my opinion, and this is just my opinion, their sharpest look today. Their red jerseys and shorts with the black helmets with the red reflective flake on them. That's going to be a shot that goes wide. Carthage will maintain possession as it is Jacob Cameron back at X. Cameron looks for a dodge. Can't find one. Sends it back to X. Westland outside Kroc. You can see Carthage really working hard at just moving the ball quickly early on here. Want to be sharp with those passes today. Johnson thought about shooting. Instead, he finds Gurn. Gurn, 360 move to the goal. They'll count it. Thought for a moment Gurn might be in the crease with all those moves that he was making. Instead, put Gurn on the dance floor. Shaking in what his mama gave him, and he gets the first goal of the game for the Firebirds. It's 1-0. Team leading 23rd goal of the season for Alec Gurn. He's got the moves like Jagger. He puts it past Gavin Ryder, and it's 1-0 in favor of Carthage. Little face dodge action there for Alec Gurn. His 43rd shot of the season is good for goal number 1 for Carthage. Coming straight forward, Coleman off the face-off, shot it in! Oh, he's not just good at the dot, folks. Chad Coleman, goal number 2 of the season for him. And it's 2-0 Carthage. Oh, and that's a Fogo's dream. Give me that face-off win. Give me that ground ball. Let me run into the attacking zone. And let me get the glory, too. The sophomore out of Delafield, Wisconsin. He gets a well-deserved break. Joey Workman will head out there to take this face-off for the Firebirds. He'll square off against Devin Cooper, who does most of the Fogo work for Lawrence. Cooper 15 of 35 on the year coming into this contest. Ball still on the ground. Surprised there wasn't a push in the back call there. Still on the ground. No one wants to take possession. Looks like a game of ice bandy almost. Now we'll get the push call, and the push will be assessed against Carthage. So possession will go to Lawrence. We'll see the Vikings on the attack, at least the organized attack for the first time today. Brody Hare coming forward. Making his way around at X over to the far side. Robbie Spielman. He hits Judah Goring. Back to Spielman. Get a feel for some of the names for this Lawrence attack. Goring. Goal line extended. Back to X. That's Spielman. Lawrence keeping it on the far side of the field for now. Camden Waters out there, we should say. On that far side. Now to the near side. Hare again. He's out of Shoreview, Minnesota. Does have a goal on the season. Sends it back to Iori Yamada. Now we do see Yamada out there. Talked about him in the open of the broadcast. Trying to execute a dodge. Well defended. Pass goes beyond its target. Credit to Britton Stanton. Short stick defensive midfielder. Bouncing shot. Knocked away by Jake Williamson. Ground ball picked up by Carthage. That is Ben Thomas who grabs that ground ball. His 10th of the season. Successful clear for the Firebirds. Andrew Johnson, a lot of room in front of him. Finds Gurn. Shot on and in. Johnson to Gurn. Get used to that combination this year, Firebirds fans. You've already seen it a whole bunch of times, and you'll see it a bunch more. 3-0 in favor of the Firebirds. Yeah, back on the topic of these uniforms here. Carthage with 3 different combinations they can wear. They wore the black uniforms yesterday. They wore the white uniforms on Wednesday. But these red uniforms, man, something about them just stands out. Especially against that green turf. Real good look for the Firebirds. And I, as you probably have picked up on here during the broadcast, especially with me talking about Mikey Zadroga and his history with the Marquette program, I have been involved with Marquette Lacrosse as an announcer since the very beginning in 2013. I'm a guy, hey, you know, in Marquette, if you know anything about sports in Wisconsin, you know that Marquette and a certain university in Madison have a certain rivalry. Shot on and in for Andrew Johnson. It's 4-0 Carthage. The Firebirds taking care of business early in this one. We did say that for Lawrence, this has been their biggest challenge of the season thus far, and we're going to get a timeout taken by Zadroga. As yes, Lawrence, having faced Trine and Carroll already, the one against Trine got out of hand. They were down 6-0 before they scored their first goal in program history. And this one has not gone the way that Mikey Zadroga has wanted it to early on. 4-0 is your score with less than 5 minutes gone in the first quarter. This is Firebirds Lacrosse. All Firebirds early on in this one. 4-0 is your score. Yeah, as a Marquette guy, again, with that rivalry that we have with that school to the west of us, close to where Edgewood is, red is not a color that we tend to like at Marquette. So if I'm saying that these red uniforms are a sharp look, I mean they're a sharp look. Lawrence, of course, in the white today. Dark blue numbers. Dark blue helmets. Face-off won by Coleman. He's going to try and make it 2. No, he's going to send the ball over to the near side. Shot on by Johnson. That is saved and held on to by Gavin Ryder. Ryder gets that save to at least slow down the Firebirds' attack for the moment. Clear is successful for the Vikings. On the clear this year, the Vikings have been successful nearly 70% of the time, although while they do get the clear, the ball gets knocked away from Emmett Eichens. Turnover caused by George Mobrotten. Now the Firebirds will go on the clear, and this is an area where the Firebirds maybe want to improve a little bit. That is a stick right up at the head of Andrew Johnson. That is going to be an obvious flag. Can't put the stick up that high. Penalties have been a bit of a problem for Lawrence as well. They have committed 6 per contest, 12 total through their 2 games as a program thus far, and that will be the first of the day if the Firebirds don't score here, but they will score here. My question is whether or not Landon Bakke got a stick on that one as he tumbled to the ground. They're giving Bakke the high fives. Andrew Johnson did feed him the ball. Going to have to see that one on replay to see who to credit that goal to. Presumably that will wave off the flag, and it will be 5-0 in favor of the Carthage Firebirds. Indeed, they are giving the goal to Bakke right now. Let's see that one again. They are going to count the penalty, by the way. Yep, did go to Bakke, and right along the ground, he underhands it into the goal. Whew, that's a pretty goal on replay. So pretty it was tough to see in real time. And we do get the 1-minute foul call for the cross-check against Zachary Bro. So he will take a knee, and the Firebirds will be man up for the next minute of this contest. Not that they've needed the help, up 5-0 so far. Firebirds win the face-off as well. Carthage has been so good on special teams this year. 15 of 23 on the EMO, successful 65.2% of the time. When they've been a man down, it's been 14 times this year, and they have only given up 1 goal. That was yesterday against Calvin. Johnson thought about taking the shot, gives it up, wide open. Andrew Fry, he does love to shoot it, leads the Firebirds in shots with 45, but it goes wide. Firebirds will maintain possession. Still up a man, about 27 seconds remaining in the EMO for the Firebirds. Gurn into the middle. Johnson, reverse of what we oftentimes see. Usually it's Gurn that likes to bang it around in the dirt. And Johnson, who is outside looking for him. Instead, this time it's Gurn up top, and Johnson on the goal line extended, trying to make a move. Time running out in the foul. Looks like the Firebirds aren't going to capitalize on this EMO. Indeed, we are back to equal strength. Left side, Johnson, he finds the net. They may actually call that an EMO goal, as Connor Badger was coming on in place of Zachary Bro. Badger was on the field, had not quite entered the play yet, though. We'll see whether or not they say that was on the EMO. Nonetheless, it's 6-0 in favor of the Firebirds. Andrew Johnson, once again, doing the job. They are not calling that an EMO goal. Could have gone either way. So they'll say the Firebirds are 0 of 1 on the EMO. That might be something they'll think about. We'll have a little talk with Sam Boyle maybe during halftime. As successful as the Firebirds have been on the EMO, that is another face-off win for Coleman. Johnson, back over, shot, save for Gavin Ryder. Ryder maintains possession. This may end up being one of these kinds of days where for Lawrence, what you're looking to do is just execute little things well. You know you're not going to claim this contest, but if you can score a few goals, if you can hold the Firebirds down, turnover there on a long cross-field pass, Firebirds get possession back. That was kind of a long pole equivalent of a Gilman clear, which normally you only get out of keepers. Firebirds back with it. Landon Bakke had the nifty goal earlier. Sawicki up top, far side. Johnson behind the goal. Gurn sends it out. Shot might have been deflected off the stick of Brandon Sawicki. Already starting to see a few different personnel out there for the Firebirds. Possession goes to Lawrence. Coming all the way out of net is Gavin Ryder, and this is always a dangerous moment. Ryder He's going to take it across midfield himself. 64 seconds. He's going to take it towards net. He tries to flip it with his big old basket to the near side. Lawrence trying to keep it in. Ryder's got a long way to run to get back. That's something you see in box lacrosse. That's not something you see a lot in the outdoor game where the goalie comes all the way up and executes the clear on his own. But he got it across in time. Interestingly enough, too, we have even seen Lawrence going over to their stats. I noticed this in preparing for this game. Coming into this one, Tyler Graham is listed as a goalie. He's a freshman out of Mendon, Massachusetts. He actually took a face-off, presumably with a short stick, in one of the first two games for the Lawrence Vikings. So, creative solutions for Lawrence in their first season, to say the least. Foul called against the Firebirds. Possession goes to the Vikings. As an aside, if you're David Neff today, one of the things you want to make sure your team does is they stay focused. It can get easy in a game like this. You get a big lead early on to start to play a little bit loose. Maybe if you take a knock or two, you're trying to vent some frustration or get let out of your head. This is an opportunity today to say, hey, we're taking this year seriously. And even against opponents that we know we're much better than, we have the opportunity to come out, put them away early, as Carthage has done already with this 6-goal lead, but also continue to execute even when you're in situations where maybe one goal doesn't make the difference. So much of lacrosse is about composure. Shooting. Jacob Cameron wide of the mark. Angelo Cullen will head back. He'll restart the possession for the Firebirds. In a game this physical, and that's where the comparisons between lacrosse and hockey come into play, because hockey moves so fast and has so much contact. That's why at the NHL level you see guys getting into fights and whatnot, because with that much speed and that much risk of injury, you got to have a little bravado about you. Johnson's shot, that is saved. Good work by Gavin Ryder. Possession, though, maintained by the Firebirds as the ball ricochets towards the near sideline. Johnson again on the far side. Gets by a defender to the near side. Shot. Croc. That's off target. Cullen again. Outside. Westland, near side. Croc. Gets around one man. Johnson, behind the goal. Cullen. Firebirds just working it around. Croc. Back to Fry. Fry on and in! And that's a good goal for Andrew Fry. He's got 14 on the season coming into this one, but Andrew Fry, looking at his shooting percentage, 31.1% with all the shots that he takes. I'm sure coming into today's contest, one of the focal points for him is not just getting shots, but finishing on shots. Goodness knows he has the speed, the senior out of Broomfield, Colorado, and the ability to create positioning for himself to get those shots close to the frame. But he wants to put a few past the goalie today, and that's a good opportunity for him to do that. He takes advantage. It's now 7-0 Carthage. Early rushing touchdown for the Firebirds, and they convert on the extra point. Face-off won by the Firebirds. Rocco Paddock. He'll take it forward, marked by Robbie Spielman. Into the attacking half. Into the box. Back behind the goal. Alec Gurn. Had to pick up that pass, but he gets it to Johnson, who then rotates it to point and Landon Bakke. Back to Johnson. Goes on the dodge. Looks back. Shot. Saved. Bennett Pronk took that shot, his 8th of the season. Gavin Ryder, busy as expected today. Ryder coming into today, 61.7 save percentage. He had allowed 23 goals. That's an average of 12.58 goals per game. Over on the other side, Williamson's goals per game average is 6.27. That average based on what you would see if the goalie would be in net for the full 60 minutes of the contest. However, both of these teams have used other goalies at times during the year. Be interesting to see today if Lawrence gives any time to D. Smith. Big boy freshman for the Vikings. Saw him walking into the stadium on my way in as well. Listen to the numbers on this guy. 6'3", 300 pounds. Takes up a lot of space in net, to say the least. That's all I'm going to say about him in case he ever runs into me sometime. Me and my 5'6", 190-pound frame, I don't think I'd be any match for him. Lawrence maintains possession, 19 on the timer after the ball came loose for Alex Hollins. Shot up and over. Correction on that was not Alex Hollins, that was 29, Brody Hare. 11 now on the timer as that shot did not result in a shot clock reset. That one won't either, as that's Hare. Goes out beyond the sideline. 4 now on the timer. Lawrence, got to hurry if they want to get something. In quickly from the wing, but that'll be nothing for Robbie Spielman. He'll just toss that ball over to the corner. Turnover, Carthage possession. 2:26 left in this first quarter. Dan Pfeifer with you. As the Carthage Firebirds have already gotten out to a 7-0 lead on this Lawrence Vikings team, playing just its third game in program history. And while, yes, this one today more than likely will belong to the Firebirds, barring a miraculous comeback, and we will have a timeout taken by the Firebirds. Good to see Lawrence adding lacrosse as a sport. Again, 23rd and 24th sports in school history. And as the game grows throughout the state of Wisconsin, and we'll talk about this more throughout the broadcast, more collegiate lacrosse encourages more high school lacrosse, encourages more youth lacrosse. And you love to see it across the state. Again, 7-0 your score. 2:12 left in the first. This is Firebirds Lacrosse. As we return to the action here at Keller Field in Kenosha, 2:12 left in the first. Carthage 7, Lawrence 0, and we were talking about the expansion of the game of lacrosse throughout the state of Wisconsin. I give a lot of credit to Bill Scholl at Marquette for being the visionary there to start the first Division I program in the state. Way back in the early 2010s, Bill just retired as the athletic director at Marquette, and I also have a good working relationship with the WIAA, which just hosted its first high school lacrosse state championships last year. Neenah High School, the Rockets, shot behind the back. That goes wide of the mark for Bennett Pronk, trying to show off a little bit. Firebirds will maintain possession, but I wanted to be a part, actually, of the first high school state lacrosse championships. Problem is, I'm already working with the WIA for the WIA state softball championships, though, that were going on the same weekend, and will likely be the same weekend as the lacrosse championships most years, but Neenah ended up falling to Middleton in the boys state championship, the inaugural boys state championship last year, and you see some Wisconsin high school presences on both of these teams. Shot on off the outside of the net for Alec Gurn. Lawrence gets possession, picked up by Ryder, the keeper. Coming forward, big hit, laid by Brandon Sawicki. How do you do, Henry Hayes? Vikings maintain possession for a moment. However, we have an offside call against Carthage. Looked like Ben Thomas came a little bit too far forward. One too many guys across for the Firebirds. Possession goes back to the Vikings. Brody Hare, near side, behind the goal, Robbie Spielman. And the game has just grown and grown. I work with Marquette University High School's program. I've had the opportunity to do a few games with Muskego's girls program at the high school level, and it has so many elements from other sports, and it's just a ton of fun. But it also takes a lot of skill, too. Going from stick to stick, not the easiest thing. Less than a minute left in the first quarter. Going to the ground and losing the ball is Iori Yamada. However, the Vikings maintain possession. Flag is down. We'll see whether this penalty gets enforced in the first quarter or if it will be what the Vikings get to start the second period. Back behind the goal, Emmett Eichens. Yamada to the near side, bouncing shot. Judah Goring tries to fool Jake Williamson. That goes out of bounds. And now we'll have an indication on the penalty. It does, of course, go against the Firebirds. It's a trip. 1 minute. And it is called against Josh Flores. Second time this year that Flores has had to enter the sin bin. 11th time this year that Lawrence has gone on the EMO. They are looking for their second man-up goal in program history. The foul will start with 6.4 seconds left in the first quarter. Let's see if Lawrence decides to do anything. Nope, just going to stand there with the ball. Robbie Spielman. He will watch the scoreboard here at Art Keller Field next to the victory bell. Run out. And that is the end of the first quarter. At least we think it's the end of the first quarter. Yes, the clock had stopped for whatever reason. With 2.3 seconds left on the clock, maybe some hesitance on the part of the clock operator thinking, hey, nobody's moving. What's going on? Nope, they just wanted the clock to run out. There will be 54 seconds left in the foul when we start the second quarter. Lawrence yet to get on the board. All Carthage in the first. 7-0 your score after one. This is Firebirds Lacrosse.
At the end of the first period, your score is Firebirds 7, Lawrence 0. 'Coming into the goal for Carthage, number 50, Luke Bloomer.
15 minutes gone, 45 minutes remain in this contest between Carthage and Lawrence, the third game in Lawrence men's lacrosse history. Carthage Firebirds lead this one 7-0. However, Lawrence will begin the second quarter a man up. Also, a new face in goal for the Firebirds. Jake Williamson did not allow a goal in the first quarter. Luke Bloomer comes on. He's a sophomore out of Prior Lake, Minnesota. Not sure what the current lake is, but he's from the Prior Lake. That's a bad joke, folks. Back behind the net with the EMO, it's Lawrence as we get this second quarter underway with my poor attempted humor. See some of the team stats from the first quarter pop on screen briefly there, and I'll give you a quick description. Firebirds a lot. Vikings not so much. Shot on. Knocked up and over. Luke Bloomer. Good way to get things going. Bloomer got the start in the first 3 games of the season. That gets knocked wide. Bloomer now already with 2 saves here as Lawrence on the EMO. Just trying to pepper him with shots early on. It has been Williamson since. Bloomer with a 7.52 goals allowed average. Outside, shot on. Bloomer goes to the ground, saves it. And he's able to hop on the ball as well. EMO is over for the Vikings. Firebirds now 1 of 15, or we should say 14 of 15 in terms of ending EMOs without allowing a goal. Outstanding special teams this year for Carthage thus far. Trying to execute a little fake Rocco Paddock running over to look like he's subbing off to try and fool Iori Yamada, and then trying to cut towards the goal. Andrew Johnson thought about it, but then thought better of it, and now we do see Paddock come off. Johnson on the right side, he doesn't need much trickery. He's pretty good when he just goes on the dodge or takes off or finds teammates himself. Again, reigning CCIWL Offensive Player of the Week. Came into the day with 13 goals and 14 assists. That's a laser beam of a shot, a frozen rope from Andrew Fry, but it goes wide of the mark. Starting things back up, Ben Kroc takes it from Gurn. Kroc on in. Just like that, Ben Kroc upstairs where Grandma keeps all of the collectibles. 8-0, Carthage up on Lawrence. Kroc came into the day with 10 goals. Goal scoring thus far for the Firebirds. Spreading the wealth. Johnson has 2. Gurn has 2. Coleman, Baki, Kroc, and Fry each with 1 now. 8-0 in favor of the Firebirds. Another face-off win for Chad Coleman. Made his way into the dirt in front of the net. Wanted to get the ball back. Wanted that opportunity for goal number 2. Instead, he'll come off. Firebirds will send Britton Stanton and Bennett Prunk, along with Angelo Cullen on. Replay of the goal. There you see it. Looked for a teammate, said, you know what? I don't need a teammate. I just need the top shelf. Back to live action and back to X. Gurn sends it outside. Johnson. Back to Gurn. Shot. Knocked about. Still on the ground. Finn Anderson couldn't collect the ground ball, although he's still working on defense. Firebirds finally pull it out of the fray. Andrew Johnson. Back to Landon Baki. Over to Johnson. 13 on the timer as there was no reset on any of those changes of possession. Angelo Cullen. Johnson's the one who finds him, and Cullen, falling away, gets the goal. Nine 0 Carthage. We mentioned that it took 6 trying goals before Lawrence got on the board. And we'll have a timeout taken now. I believe by Lawrence. We will check on that, as it has been all Carthage thus far. We mentioned execution. That was the goal today for David Neff. Also improvement. Wanted to clean up some things, even though they got that victory over Calvin yesterday. So far, so good for the Firebirds. 9-0 your score with 11:53 remaining in the second. This is Firebirds Lacrosse. The timeout was taken by the Firebirds, so they have none remaining here in the first half. Not that they necessarily are going to need them with a 9-0 lead on the Vikings of Lawrence with 11:53 remaining in the second quarter. And I think David Neff may have wanted to take that time out in order to tell his guys, you know what, let's focus on a few little things here going forward. And when you get to a game like this where you pretty much have it in hand, you know that you're the better team. And again, that's no slight against Lawrence. You know, this is a program that's going to grow. And goodness knows the fine folks up in Appleton are going to commit resources to this program. And Mikey Zdrogan knows what he's doing. It's a learning process. So, don't take this as any slight to the folks up in Lawrence and what we're seeing here today. This is just part of what happens. I mentioned, I was at Hart Park in 2013 when that brand new Marquette program took on 6th-ranked Duke, and they fell 19-3 in front of 4,400 fans. A lot of excitement about lacrosse in Wisconsin at that point, nearly 13 years ago now. And it's one of these things where you get to this point, and it's a little like spring training baseball, where you start to say, okay, now we're going to work on this. Pick one skill. Maybe like that there where you saw Fry take that shot out of the back. We're not going to take any shots from right in front of the goal if they're there for us. We're going to work on distributing. We're going to not take a shot in the first 40 seconds of the possession time, or whatever it may be. Talking about Gilman clears. 10-man ride here for the Firebirds. Coming up to get that is Luke Bloomer, as that is a clear turnover. Ryder. We mentioned that Gilman clear. That's when the goalie just decides to send it down the field. Oftentimes when there's time ticking away on that possession timer, you have to get it across midfield within 20 seconds. You get 80 seconds after you get possession on the possession timer, so you have to clear it before the clock hits 60. Shot in front of the goal, a bad pass in front of the goal. Judah Goring is right there, and he's able to pick it out of the sky for a ground ball that does not touch the ground. Also a caused turnover for him. Lawrence on the clear. Connor Badger takes it across. But this may be one of those days and afternoons where, especially if you keep your starting group for the most part, or your first group and your second group out there, you say to your guys, all right, we're going to focus on this particular thing, whatever that may be, that we need to do better. Because today is our chance to work on it against live opposition. So that might have been part of what that timeout was for David Neff. Iori Yamada heads back towards X, and you hear me talking about playing from X quite a bit on the broadcast. If you are merely a lacrosse fan, Yamada on and in, and hey, that's the first goal of the day for the Lawrence Vikings. Iori Yamada, now the leader for the Vikings in goals scored on the season with 3. And Lawrence is on the board. They end the 9-goal streak to start the game for the Carthage Firebirds. It is 9-1 with 9:23 remaining in the second. Iori Yamada, 5'9", 165-pound sophomore for the Vikings. He gets them on the board, puts one past Luke Bloomer. Nice little stick fake in front of the goal, and the Vikings have their first goal of the day. Also their 11th goal in program history. But you have a chance to build something here if you're both Lawrence and Carthage, really. The Carthage program does have an extensive history. The 2021 team went 6-0. You'll see the replay of the first Lawrence goal. We were talking about playing from X, and there he is, Gurn at X. Again, if you're more of a lacrosse fan than you were someone who played the game, X is the area right behind the goal there. It's kind of a nomenclature that derives from the fact that that goal has that angle: shot, blocked, shot, saved. You can see the goal is triangular, so it forms a point at the back, and then if you keep the lines of that goal going, you would have an X. We're going to have a flag thrown here. So oftentimes it's referred to as X back behind the goal there. Key spot to work from in lacrosse because you're behind the goalie. You can see everything that's going on. Some discussion among the officials as to what exactly happened with this foul. Good sportsmanship on the part of Andrew Fry. Coming over is Eamon Tegenfeld-Foman for the Lawrence Vikings. Looks like he will be the one who has to take a knee. Conversation going on between one of the officials and Mikey Zadroga. That will get the signal for the penalty. It's a 30-second technical against Tegenfeld-Foman. So we'll have a brief EMO for the Firebirds, and we'll see if they can take advantage. We've not seen many quick 30s over the last couple days here at Art Keller Field. The standard variety of foul. EMO opportunity for the Firebirds. They were unsuccessful on their first of the day. At least officially unsuccessful at last check. Again, the Firebirds did score right after the player came on with 10 seconds left on the foul. That is a shot that goes wide, and the Firebirds did not have anyone at X. Another reason why that position is key, and we talked about it a little bit yesterday when we mentioned that having someone at X, because you retain possession after a shot if you have the person closest to the ball, can oftentimes be a good way to make sure you maintain possession, and that's one of the ways that you see teams lose out every once in a while when perhaps they're trying to create shots out of chaos. Firebirds had one too many men forward. That was offside. That's why possession goes to Lawrence. As, again, the Firebirds were unable to capitalize on that EMO. Now 0 of 2 on the day. A lot of physical play. Could have had a trip call instead. They'll just give the Firebirds possession as they're able to win it back. So there is good reason, even though it's 6-on-6, to oftentimes have one attackman all the way back behind the goal. And then the constant movement on the part of the long poles. You can have 4 long poles out there. Typically, your defensive players all carry a long pole, and then very common to have a fourth, a long stick midfielder. You can go with a long stick midfielder. You can have a defensive short stick midfielder. A lot of different ways you can work things. Andrew Johnson. That's a bullet to the top corner. Double digits now for Carthage. It's 10-1.
And a Firebirds goal by number 1, Andrew Johnson, for a hat trick.
Johnson now with the hattie on the day. They give the assist to Gurn. And the Firebirds are back on the board. 10-1 your score. But a lot of different ways you can manage personnel in lacrosse, and different combinations if you want a more offensive look, a more defensive look, ways that you can rotate guys on, and you see guys running through the substitution area all the time. Sometimes that substitution area, so at Marquette, where, again, I'm fortunate enough to work a lot of their games, oftentimes as the public address announcer. We play most of our games at Marquette. I shouldn't say we. Marquette plays most of its games in the Valley Fields Dome, a large inflatable bubble that you can see when you're driving by on I-94 going through the city of Milwaukee. And the stand that most of the folks working in scoring and marketing and whatnot are on is right behind the substitution area. There's a long ball played down the field as Gavin Ryder saw the Firebirds on the 10-man ride and thought, hey, I'm going to try and do the improbable and score a goalie goal here. You can tell Gavin Ryder has some offensive instincts, even though he's in goal at the other end. We did have a flag thrown against the Firebirds, and waiting to see who exactly this is going to be called on. Oh, nope, that was called against Lawrence, actually. Bit of a surprise. Henry Hayes is the one who gets called for it. 4th time this year he has been penalized. 1 minute for a slash. And we'll have another flag thrown unsportsmanlike conduct against coach Mikey Zadroga not happy with some of the calls down there. So as part of the unsportsmanlike conduct foul, if I'm not mistaken, they have to bring another player over to take a seat. So this should be 2 men up for the Firebirds, and that unsportsmanlike conduct call is non-releasable. When you see the official clap his hands together like that on a foul call, the indication is that the foul is such that even if the Firebirds score, that player is going to have to take a knee and serve the full 1 minute. So now some confusion as to who Lawrence wants to pull off the field and have take a knee as the second player, because you do have to pull a player off even though the coach is the one who gets called for the unsportsmanlike call. They'll choose Robbie Spielman. Firebirds 2 men up now. As you see Lawrence fall into kind of a 4-man zone. Pass saved from going out of bounds. Jake Westland, that would have been a moment that the Firebirds would have regretted if they had turned the ball over up 2 men. In the middle, Westland looking to send it back out. Kroc, Johnson, far side, shot for Fry. Kind of the Nolan Ryan of the Firebirds. He's maybe got the fastest fastball. Maybe we should say Rick Vaughn. Not always on target. When he does find the target, though, he is dangerous, and that is an easy goal for Alec Gurn, up a man. You can see he gets it just outside the crease. Makes a quick fake on Ryder, puts it in. He's got a hat trick now. It's 11-1 in favor of the Firebirds. The lead is now double digits. 1 foul releases for the Vikings for the slash. The unsportsmanlike conduct continues. Firebirds will be on the 1-man EMO. Interestingly, they had Hayes' number up there, and they also have Emmett Eishen's number on the scoreboard. Eishen's is not the one serving the foul, though. It is Robbie Spielman that is currently on a knee. Eishen's talking with the training staff. Similar spot. Firebirds up a man. Still. Well, now they clear both the penalties off the board as Spielman does step back on. His foul has concluded. We are back to equal strength. Andrew Johnson up top. Ben Kroc goes on the dodge. Heads to the near side. Westland. There's that fastball from Andrew Fry. And this time he finds the zone. 12-1.
And a Firebirds goal by number 45, Andrew Fry.
Andrew Fry. Goals coming in bunches right now for the Firebirds. Second goal of the game for Fry. Johnson and Gurn each have the Hattie in the day. 12-1 now in favor of the Firebirds. You mentioned concentration earlier, execution. That goes both ways. You know, you're the Firebirds, you've got this big lead. You know you can finish against this team. But for Lawrence, got to avoid some of the errors of frustration, if you will. The penalties like the slash. We saw that instance earlier where they got the basket up in the head of Johnson. Can't be messing around putting your stick up in a guy's bucket. And now you see the unsportsmanlike conduct foul against Zadroga, and you don't want to put yourself in a position where you're letting your frustration get the best of you. And it's, again, sometimes part of the lesson that you have to learn in your first year as a program, that things are not going to go your way a healthy amount of the time. And against the Firebirds team, and we get to see Carthage quite a bit. That's part of it. Shot. You get a flag thrown as Yamada sends it wide of the far post. Looks like this might be an EMO opportunity for the Vikings. Indeed, the Firebirds are going to get hit. The 30-second technical. This will get called against Kyan Schugel. Third time this year he's had to take a knee. A little over 4 minutes left in the second quarter when the foul begins. Lawrence on the EMO. Trying to score their second man-up goal of the year. But as mentioned, this can be a very emotional game, and that's part of what makes it fun. Talked about being down there by that substitution area, and every once in a while, when teams have guys rotating on, you'll get some contact down there. You'll have some words exchanged, many of which are not repeatable. Talk about Joe Amplo. Coach Amplo for Marquette, a big-time influence on Mikey Zadroga. Good guy. Talk with Joe off the lacrosse field. One of the best guys you'll ever meet. Nice guy. Type of guy who is very thoughtful. Did a great job of building that Marquette program. That is an errant pass on the part of the Firebirds. Wrong-footed a bit was Landon Bakke on that pass from Brandon Sawicki. Turnover. It'll be Lawrence possession. But I'll tell you something. Joe Amplo. And I have to be a little bit careful here in terms of how I describe some of these things. But one time I saw Joe Amplo get so angry that he turned a color that I have never seen a human being turn before. Maybe the only comparable thing would be the scene in the Gene Wilder version of Willy Wonka or Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. When Violet Beauregard turns into a blueberry, it was somewhat equivalent to that color of purple. On the field, Joe Amplo had a temper that I have not quite seen out of any other human being in my life. Earned himself a 30-second technical once for punting a pylon, as that's another goal for the Firebirds. Bennett Pronk. It was a pretty good punt, too. Sort of thing that Marquette King, former Raiders punter, would have been proud of. Maybe we're seeing that Mikey Zadroga is bringing a little bit of that fire that Joe Amplo had once upon a time at Marquette. And again, it's the nature of lacrosse. This one is now a 13-1 game in favor of Carthage. It's a physical sport. One in which emotions run high. And again, a lot of these guys off the field, great guys. Absolutely great guys. But on the field, the players, the coaches, even the officials a lot of the time. Very, very intense. Fast-moving. Nothing happens quietly in lacrosse. Everything is a shout. Speaking of some contact and physicality, Zachary Bro, perhaps aptly named, runs into Angelo Cullen. Ball pops out. Firebirds maintain possession. 1:22 left in this second quarter. Firebirds up 12. Johnson on the far side. Cullen. Now we're going to have to watch this Cullen versus Bro matchup. Bro right now at the top of things for the defense. There you see Bro charging at Cullen, and Cullen gets the answer. Right in front of Bro. He puts it past Ryder and in. Ryder kind of ducks his head. He wanted to stand up for his teammate, but Cullen says revenge is sweet as he makes it 14-1. And hey, credit to him too. You know what? That's a moment where he could have maybe popped up and pumped a fist or gotten somebody's face or whatever. You know what? He said, hey, I just took care of business and I'm heading back to the bench. By the way, for Angelo Cullen, he now has 2 goals on the day. Those are his first 2 goals of the season. Had 4 shots coming into this one, but had not yet gotten on the board. Good for him. Under a minute left in this second quarter as you see the replay of that goal. It's a 13-goal advantage for the Firebirds. Far side, Andrew Johnson takes a peek back at the scoreboard to see how much time is left in this quarter. Johnson now comes over to the near side. Cullen again. Far side. Landon Baki out there for the Firebirds. Johnson gets a screen, sends it back to X and Gurn. Over the top, Johnson, confusion in front of the goal, and Johnson uses the screen that he gets from the Vikings midfielder, Finn Anderson, to score past Gavin Ryder and make it 14-1 in favor of Carthage. Correction, 15-1. Hard to keep track with this many goals being scored. Johnson now with 4 in the contest. And with 11 seconds remaining in the second quarter, Mikey Zadroga is going to take his final timeout for Lawrence. And that's going to be a teaching moment for Zadroga, as you'll see every once in a while an attacking player screen the goalie, try and set up in front of him, try and limit his vision, but ultimately it was Lawrence defensively that created issues for Ryder in goal. As you can see here, 2 Lawrence players collide, and that is a true challenge for Gavin Ryder when he's got Finn Anderson right in front of him. We'll roll it back and you can look at it again. You've got both Anderson and Carter Walroth right there. Johnson is winding up to take that shot, and how are you supposed to see that if you're Gavin Ryder, the goalie? Goes right over his stick. Great placement by Andrew Johnson. And that's why the Firebirds now lead 15-1. We're going to take a quick break. We will come back with the final 11 and a half seconds of the second quarter. This is Firebirds Lacrosse. By the way, great work today on the part of our production team, rolling that one back and forth for that replay there. Good stuff. Gives us a chance to make some talking points, teach the game a little bit as well today in this contest where Carthage has a 15-1 lead. Face-offs have mostly been in favor of the Firebirds today. Shot for Chad Coleman. He wanted to make it 16-1. Could not do it. 4.9 left on the game clock. Gurn comes forward at X, looks for a dodge, spins around in front of the goal, not there. Time runs out. 15-1 will be your score as we head to the half. Yeah, the Firebirds, 15 of 17 on face-offs today, 10 of 10 on clears. They've won 33 ground balls compared to 13 for Lawrence. 35 shots compared to 9 for the Vikings. And 11 of the 15 Carthage goals have had assists attached to them. Halftime at Art Keller Field. We did expect Carthage to be the better team today. Maybe not by this much, though. 15-1 is your score. As we head to the break, this is Carthage Firebirds Lacrosse. At the half here at Art Keller Field in Kenosha, Wisconsin, the southeast corner of the state of Wisconsin. Coming down from the northeast part of the state, the Lawrence Vikings, as they look to build a program in their inaugural season. They are down to Carthage right now, 15-1, as Mikey Zadroga looks to build this Vikings program up. Look at the stats. Unsurprisingly, in a 15-1 game, pretty one-sided. We mentioned that 11 of the 15 Carthage goals have been assisted thus far. Shots very much in favor of the Firebirds, 35-9. Ground balls also in favor of the Firebirds. I like to calculate win rate when it comes to ground balls. So you take those 33 ground balls that the Firebirds have gotten, you add in the 13 that Lawrence has, and then you divide that out. That is a 71% win rate for the Firebirds on ground balls. On the season, the win rate has been 61% for Carthage, whereas Lawrence has been winning about 43% of their ground balls most of the time. So that gives you kind of a good measure of how active the teams are when the ball is free and who can get to the ball and be in better position. Carthage has been good on the clear today. Perfect 10 of 10. Lawrence, 2 failed clears thus far. They are 7 of 9. 10 turnovers for the Vikings, 6 for the Firebirds in this contest. That is one area. The Firebirds turning the ball over on average 16.6 times per game coming into today. Maybe one area that they have wanted to work on cleaning up. That was one thing yesterday against Calvin. Just some of the simple little passes. And granted, that was a blustery, windy day. The wind has picked up a little bit out of the south today versus how it was blowing out of the north-northwest yesterday. But turnovers have at times been something that have been a bit of a bugaboo for David Neff's squad. But that is something that they have improved on some today as they have focused on finding each other with basket-to-basket passes and maintaining possession in that way. Individual stats in the first half for Carthage. We talk about goals scored, of course. Leading the way, the reigning CCIW Player of the Week, Andrew Johnson. He's got 4 goals. Alec Earn has 3. You've got Angelo Cullen with his first 2 goals of the season. Also, Andrew Fry, 2 goals to bring his season total up to 16. Chad Coleman, the Fogo for the Firebirds, does have a goal today. Also, Bennett Prunk, Landon Baki, and 1 goal for Ben Kroc thus far in the contest. Assist-wise, both Johnson and Gurn have 4 assists. Gurn, coming into today, had 26 points on the season. Johnson had 27. So Johnson is now ahead by 2 points. That is the total of goals plus assists. Shots, it is Johnson that is leading the way with 7. Johnson has 8, we should say. Fry has 7. In terms of ground balls, Coleman with 9 coming off of those face-offs. Most of the time, he's just able to win them himself. On the face-off today, Coleman 14 of 15, and his numbers are some of the best in the country right now. We mentioned that coming in, he was winning 76% of his face-offs. Well, add another 14 wins and 15 tries for him, and that percentage is going to be pretty doggone good by the end of the afternoon. Go over to the other side for the Lawrence Vikings. Only 1 goal, and it does belong to the exchange student from Japan, Iori Yamada. So he has the only point of the day for the Lawrence Vikings. In terms of shots, it is Judah Goring along with Brody Hare with 3 to lead the way for the Lawrence Vikings. In terms of ground balls, Hare has 3. That is also tops for the Vikings right now. Face-offs, they have all been taken by number 7, Devin Cooper, and he is just 2 of 17 on the day. Turnovers, leading the way for Lawrence, Zach Sokolowski has 2 on the afternoon thus far. In terms of caused turnovers, there have not yet been any for the Lawrence Vikings. Meanwhile, on the other side, you talk about creating turnovers, there have been 2 caused turnovers thus far. 1 for Ben Thomas, that is just his 3rd of the season, but also 1 for George Mobrotten. He has caused 11 turnovers on the season thus far. A good number for him. So as we get set for the 3rd quarter of this one, again, if you're Carthage, it may be a matter of working in some different personnel, getting some guys some time that maybe haven't seen as much time, especially coming off of a game yesterday, A physical contest against Calvin that Carthage was able to come away as a 10-8 winner in. Meanwhile, for Lawrence, it's just, again, about continuing to build and keeping your composure as well. We talked about the penalties in the first half. You did see Lawrence commit 4, cost them 3 minutes and 30 seconds of time, whereas for Carthage, there were 2 penalties, 1 minute and 30 seconds. On the season, Lawrence averaging 6 penalties per game. Right now, they're on pace to even top that, so something that you'll want to clean up if you're Mikey Zadroga and the Vikings. We'll take a quick break. When we come back, we will have the third quarter for you from Art Keller Field. It's the Firebirds, it's the Vikings. Right now, it's Carthage up on Lawrence, 15-1. This is Firebirds Lacrosse. Firebirds and Vikings from Art Keller Field in Kenosha. Dan Pfeifer on board with you. Second half upcoming. Chad Coleman heads out there. Looks like we will see Finn Anderson take this face-off for the Vikings.
Number 9, Tyler Graham. And coming into the goal for Carthage, number 44.
You can hear Olivia Rogers, our PA announcer in the background, announcing the new goalies here for the third quarter. Tyler Graham will step in between the pipes for the Vikings. Graham did see some action in one of the 2 Vikings' previous contests. He's got a 17.5 goals against average. Meanwhile, for the Firebirds, third goalie of the day, it'll be Hayden Jones. He's a senior, 6'3", 200 pounds, out of Rochester, Minnesota. Good low goals against average. He has appeared in 4 of the Firebirds' previous 5 games. Team scoring a 2.33 goals per game clip against Jones thus far. He has not seen much time. He's allowed 1 goal, saved 3 shots. Right away, the Firebirds out there, and they get on the board to start the second half. Is Colin McClure, first goal of the season for him. He only had 2 shots on the season coming into this one. Now he's got a goal to his name. And the Firebirds make it 16-1. Colin McClure, freshman out of Denver. And now he can say he's got a collegiate goal. Lines up as a attacking midi. 5'8", 145 pounds. Ensuing face-off won by the Firebirds. Chad Coleman once again. He'll hand it off to Andrew Johnson. And no matter who the Firebirds have out on the field around Johnson, when he's there, he's always a threat. We are starting to see some different names come onto the field for the Firebirds. That's Matt Prosser. He's a junior out of Arlington Heights, Illinois. He's out at the points. The Firebirds working around the back. Johnson from X up top. Prosser wearing number 6. Over to Kyle Sisney, the Warhawk out of Heartland. Arrowhead alum. Sisney back to Johnson behind the goal. Hesitation move. Johnson at X. Falls down, almost lands in the crease. Up top, shot goes wide. Matt Prosser takes it. Prosser had 2 shots on the season coming into this one. They do say that Tyler Graham made contact with that. Reset of the shot clock for the Firebirds. Henry Arnold also out there, freshman from Peoria, Illinois.
Of course, with Carthage very close to the state line here, good mix of Wisconsin and Illinois kids, including kids from elsewhere in the country. Of course, Carthage College at one point in time was actually located in Illinois, relocated up here to Kenosha. A little bit of Carthage history for you on this Sunday afternoon. You can't know where you're going unless you know where you've been. One of my favorite phrases. 15 on the timer for the Firebirds. Matt Prosser to the near side. Sisney looking left-handed. Can't find anything. Loses the ball. It's picked up by the Vikings. Henry Hayes takes into the attacking half. Looks for his teammate Brody Hare. Kicked out of bounds. And they say that it's out of bounds first before it was kicked by Hare. Possession goes to Lawrence. Not sure about that call. Nonetheless, not going to make much of a difference in a 16-1 game. And for the Firebirds, on a day where they have not had a lot of time, where they have had to defend their nets. And again, in a contest where it's going to go to the Firebirds pretty much one way or another. Probably not much of an argument from David Neff, as he will not mind his team having to work a little bit on this half. Shot on the part of Iori Yamada. That goes wide. Vikings maintain possession. Eamon Teagenfeld-Foman, we should say, wearing number 3 for Lawrence. Got things restarted. Shot off the post for Yamada. Long ricochet comes to the Vikings. They'll get a fresh 60. Camden Waters to the near side, and Teagenfeld-Foman. I suspect, I do not know this for sure, ETP might be his nickname. Seems like it would be easier to get out than his full name, as it is listed on the roster. He takes a shot. Not there for him. Ground ball picked up by the Vikings and Robbie Spielman. Spielman, mentioned he's a native of New Berlin, Wisconsin. I grew up in New Berlin myself. Ooh, he takes a big shot as he fakes a shot. And they're going to say that was a bit too physical. They'll call the foul against Nolan Hazelwood, freshman midfielder of Coon Rapids, Minnesota. Hazelwood, big boy, 6'2", 200 pounds. Sends a message that they might be able to field back in New Berlin and Waukesha County. Spillman did go to New Berlin Eisenhower, home of the Lions. I grew up in New Berlin. I did not attend school in New Berlin School District, though. I went to Brookfield Central High School. I do some work still in New Berlin, though, for New Berlin West's athletic programs, the rivals of Eisenhower, West Vikings. So Spielman goes from being a Lion, where he was a rival to the Vikings, to being a Viking, where today he's facing Firebirds. Quick mascot summary for you there is Lawrence maintains possession again. Iori Yamada loses the ball. Scrap for the ground ball. Picked up by Yamada. Oh, nope. Yamada didn't get it. Swings his stick at the guy who did, Kayan Schugel. Schugel with the short stick. Brings it forward himself. To the far side, Hazelwood. Johnson in front of the goal. Shot. Not there for Jacob Cameron. Part of the normal first line for the Firebirds out there right now. Johnson after the shot. Sends it to Bennett Pronk. Angelo Cullen, 2 goals on the day for him. Looking to see if he can get a freshman heady. Pronk loses concentration. Yard sale, stick on the field. Ground ball picked up by the Vikings and Zach Sokolowski. Vikings take it forward. Off the turnover. Finn Anderson. He'll give it up to Goring. Goring. Far side. Still with it. Being marked by Ben Thomas. Goring still holding on to it. Basketball, this would have been a 5-second call 5 seconds ago. No such thing in lacrosse. And then Waters takes it from Goring, who will take a rest. To the near side, spinning around, Brody Hare. Up top, Camden Waters. Firebirds able to hold the Vikings down, keep them from getting their second goal game. Far side, Rocco Paddock gives it to Cameron. Cameron to the near side, and McClure. He'll just toss it back to Andrew Fry. Firebird set the attack. Brandon Zwicky comes on. He'll take the ball from Fry. Heads over to the far side. Takes it towards goal line, extends, sends it back to X. Coming around, Landon Bakke. Shot well off the mark for McClure. Momentum was taking him towards the far side of the field, and he did not make enough of an adjustment as that ball drifted in that direction as well. Firebirds do maintain possession. Fry, far side, you know he wanted to fire that fastball of his. Up top, there it is. Goes wide. 21 seconds on the shot clock. Far side. Looking for a dodge. Sawicki. Back to McClure. McClure takes a shot in the back as the ball is loose. It's picked up by the Firebirds, running out of time. They do reset the shot clock to 60. Didn't see if there was a call of a off-ball push there, but Firebirds get to maintain possession. Sometimes tough to hear if there's a whistle up here in our sealed-off box. As you can tell, we don't have a lot of ambient sound from the game with this broadcast. No fault of anyone on the production crew. To be honest with you, if I wanted to, I could open the window, but yeah, it's cold out there. No thanks. Got on and in. That's a goal for Landon Bakke. And the Firebirds in the scoring drought. Make it 17-1 with 6:39 remaining in the third. Everyone over on the other side of the press box has to wake back up. Oh yeah, let's hit that goal siren and get things back going again here. Landon Bakke with the goal. Assisted by Colin McClure. Bakke now has a pair of goals on the day. Only had one goal on the season coming in. 17-1 in favor of Carthage. Another face-off win for the Firebirds. Just dominant at the dot today. It's part of the reason why in lacrosse, especially at the D3 level, when you've faced opponents like Edgewood, who Carthage handled easily on Wednesday night 18-6, and now Lawrence. And again, it's not a slight against Lawrence. It's just the nature of a first-year program when you've got this kind of disparity between programs. Sometimes the stats you see, if you just look at them without any context, can be a little bit deceiving. And we do bring up team stats, but they're only so much of a measure, especially when you're trying to judge strength of opponent and whatnot. We talked about the fact that for Lawrence, as they do not only cause a Carthage turnover, but they are able to get a successful clear, touch it up in the box, although trying to fire it back, they lose it. Ground ball and turnover. Collecting the ground ball for the Carthage Firebirds, Henry Arnold. But ultimately, it breaks down to what you see in terms of competition, and the measure of competition for Carthage today is one where when you are going up against a team like Lawrence, you know you're the better team. It's just kind of how the game falls. The score tells story. 17-1 in favor of the Firebirds over the Vikings. 5:10 remaining in the third. We'll take a quick pause. This is Firebirds Lacrosse. live.carthage.edu. Appreciate you joining us today. Maybe you're joining us through the Carthage YouTube channel. Had a chance to check it out a few times over the course of the past week. Thanks to Peter Ferrari, who has had to work very hard over the last few days. There have just been all kinds of events going on here on the Carthage campus, so I have appreciated just having the opportunity to come up here for a few Carthage lacrosse games, much less help out, as it has been a busy time for the athletic department. Sam Boyle, of course, Sports Information Director as well. My thanks to him. Dan Pfeifer with you from Art Keller Field on the east side. Up in the big, nice grandstand. High above it all in the press box. Outstanding facilities here at Carthage. Great treatment as well. Shot. Saved. Henry Arnold. Tyler Graham wins the battle. About 4.5 minutes left in the third quarter of this one as the Carthage Firebirds have a 17-1 lead on the Lawrence Vikings. Pass is tipped, knocked out of bounds. Lawrence will maintain possession. Come forward with it. Judah Goring. Looks like ball may not have been whistled as ready for play, or he had brought it out of the wing before he was supposed to. So now he will come forward and he'll get a screen from Camden Waters. Sends the ball over to the far side. Not a good pass. Unpaused turnover for Vikings. Firebirds get possession. So much success in both CCIW and even at the NCAA level here at Carthage. Great programs, great facilities. Had the opportunity to work a number of different sports here. Tarbell Arena, the famed parquet floor over there. Maybe not quite as famed as the parquet floor at whatever they are calling the current iteration of the basketball arena in Boston. Of course, the previous legendary facility there, up above the railroad tracks, the Boston Garden. It's gone by a number of sponsored financial institution names, the new building. Shot, saved by Tyler Graham. Landon Bakke took that shot. Carthage gets position back, but upstairs, downstairs at the Tarbell Athletic and Recreation Center, named for N.E. Tarbell. Of course, Art Keller Field here. Great turf, great grandstands. Even had a chance to go downstairs a couple times. Check things out in the red zone. Student Commons area. Pick myself up a couple snacks. Nice, cozy little place for students to hang out. Flag comes from the back, and I believe that's going to be an offside call against Carthage. Kind of firing a pass nowhere and hoping for a teammate to come over as Yamada. Another flag thrown now from back, and I have a feeling this might be an unsportsmanlike call against Carthage. That is a scooping shot taken by Judah Goring. Now we're going to have some discussion between the near side official and the folks upstairs here in the press box. Let's see what the flags are for. We have offside, indeed, a 30-second technical against Carthage. Then we also have a slash called against Carthage. That'll be a 1-minute foul. Wasn't exactly sure who got called for what there, but Jack Meyer is the one who takes a seat. He will be joined by Nolan Hazelwood. Meyer was the first one to sit down. It looks like the 30 was called against him. Hazelwood will serve 1 minute, at least according to what's on the scoreboard right now. We might see it go the other way around. Not a big deal if it's the other way around. Easy enough to correct in the stats. Easy enough to figure out. That is a pass picked right out of the air. Good work with the long stick for Sam Wallace. Loses the ball, though. Knocks it forward. Scrap for the ground ball. Again, who wants it more in these situations? Lawrence gets it this time. Judah Goring. a foul against Carthage. Lawrence maintains possession. One of the two Carthage fouls is done. They're still on the EMO, though are the Vikings, at least for the time being. Time running out, though. 4, 3, 2, 1. Foul is released. Returning to play is Nolan Hazelwood. Vikings were 2 men up for 30 seconds and a man up for another 30 seconds. They could not get their second EMO goal of the season or their second goal of the game. Robbie Spielman from goal line extended sends it out. Camden Waters, 20 on the shot clock. That's a shot and a goal for the Vikings. Camden Waters, first goal of the season for him. First goal of his college career. The freshman out of Northfield, Minnesota makes it 17-2. Camden Waters, midfielder. He becomes the seventh player in the history of Lawrence Vikings men's lacrosse to score a goal. And he does it with 51 seconds remaining in the third quarter. Joins Yamada, Spielman, Goring, Logan Marsh, Hare, and Eiches among the annals of all-time Lawrence men's lacrosse goal scorers. Kind of fun to use the grand sweeping historical references when you're talking about a new program. Kind of like expansion teams, if you will, in professional sports. And for folks who are of a certain age, I am 42 years old, so I can remember, for instance, when the Jacksonville Jaguars and Carolina Panthers came into the NFL. Houston Texans actually won their first game against Dallas Cowboys when they were an expansion team. Jaguars and Panthers had a little bit more early success. 2.1 seconds left on the game clock. Both of those teams went to their respective conference championship games in their second year. The Panthers losing to a team we're rather fond of north of the state line here in Wisconsin, the Green Bay Packers, who ended up winning Super Bowl 31 that year. But they actually put the game clock back at 7 seconds here to give Carthage a little bit more time on the attack. Let's see if they take advantage. Shot wide by Matt Prosser. And time does indeed run out here in the third quarter. 17-2. Carthage up on Lawrence. After 3, we'll have 15 more minutes of lacrosse to come, and maybe we'll talk a little bit more about expansion teams through the years, the professional level. All manner of topics on the table for the final 15 minutes in a 15-goal game. How are you going to find out what we're going to talk about? Well, you'll just have to stay tuned. This is Firebirds Lacrosse.
Coming into the goal for Carthage, number 43, Connor Kiergaard.
Time for the fourth quarter here at Art Keller Field in Kenosha. 15 more minutes of lacrosse. It's a 15-goal lead right now for Carthage, 17-2. Up on the Lawrence Vikings. New goalie for the fourth quarter for the Firebirds is all four goalies on the Firebirds roster will now have seen action today. It's Connor Kiergaard who is out there now for the Firebirds for the fourth quarter. Face-off won by the Firebirds to start this fourth quarter. Giving the ground ball to Ben Thomas. The Firebirds get things underway. It is still Tyler Grant in goal for the Vikings. He took over in the third quarter for Gavin Ryder, who played the entirety of the first half. Big lead for the Firebirds here. I made the comparison to one of the staffers walking through at halftime to this being a little bit like spring training baseball, something that I know a lot of you folks out there, whether you are of the Brewer fan, Cub fan, or other MLB or even minor league team persuasion, are likely familiar with, where this is one of those days where, yes, we do want to make sure we talk some about the guys who are getting time that maybe don't see as much time as normal out there, but it's a good time also, too, to bring up some other things. Well, we have your attention, casual conversation, of course, given that the result of this game is largely in hand for the Firebirds. Shot wide of the mark by Bennett Pronk. Speaking spring training, you know, all of us broadcasters who have spent any time living in the state of Wisconsin, that's a shot for Colin McClure. Saved by Graham. Strap for the ground ball. Looks like it's going to be won by Angelo Cullen. Or correction, Jacob Cameron, and it is. But anyone who has ever strapped on a headset or carried a microphone in Wisconsin, shot for Cullen. Saved by Graham. He holds onto it, and he'll send things the other way for the Vikings. Of course, mourning the loss in recent weeks of the legendary Bob Uecker. And I like to say that if you listen to any broadcaster for any sport in the state of Wisconsin, you hear some hints of Ueck in what they talk about, what they do. I know my cadence comes a lot from Ueck with his pauses to think about what he was saying. You can go back and watch his appearances on The Tonight Show with Johnny Carson. Shot a goal for the Carthage Firebirds. Henry Arnold, the freshman out of Peoria, Illinois. He gets that goal.
And a Firebirds goal by number 31, Henry Arnold.
Congratulations to Henry Arnold, who has his first goal of his college career. Makes it 18-2 in favor of Carthage. The small, subtle ways of weaving humor into broadcasts. Very dry humor that you had, and I've been fortunate in my life as well. I did not really have a chance to interact with Bob Uecker much personally. I covered the Brewers for a Milwaukee radio station in 2006. I was at 70 games, saw him a lot, but if you remember, Bob Uecker did have a incident where he was dealing with a stalker. It was around that time, and at that point in time, understandably, you could never get away from fan attention, but he was keeping to himself much more at that point in the wake of that incident, as anyone would. And so I purposely made a point that year, even though I was around the Brewers that much, to kind of just let Ueck be. By the end of the season, he would give me a nod every once in a while. But I've actually had the chance now to work a lot with the longtime producer for Brewers broadcast, Kent Sommerfeld. Did some high school games with Kent once upon a time. That's a shot and a goal for the Vikings. Jude Doring. He gets on the board. Third goal of the season for him. And the Vikings flip the script in this one, make it 18-3 with 12 minutes even remaining in the fourth quarter. Goring, freshman out of Lindstrom, Minnesota. Third goal of the day for Lawrence. Might have caught Carthage sleeping a little bit there. 18-3 your score now. But to hear the stories of working with you personally from Kent, who has been with the Brewers since sometime in the mid-'80s. I forget if it's 1986 or 87. No, he was there for a number of the games during Team Streak when the Brewers won 13 straight games to start the season in 1987. Flag comes in after the face-off. And I have a feeling this is going to be in a sportsmanlike conduct call. Let's see who it's on, though. Everyone looking at the referees to try and figure out what exactly the call is. Seems like it was thrown well after the faceoff was controlled. Unsportsmanlike is the call against the Firebirds and Joey Workman. Non-releasable as well, so it'll be a full 1 minute of EMO time for the Vikings. Coming forward, Camden Waters. But a very unique personality, another flag flies for the Carthage Firebirds, and again was the voice of Brewers baseball for close to 55 years, and just part of the soundtrack of summer here in Wisconsin. Shot, that goes wide. Now we'll find out about flag. If you are a Cubs fan, of course, you had Harry Carey for so many years, Jack Brickhouse as well, but so unique, Bob Uecker. His style, his sense of humor, and also how sharp he stayed into his later years. And we did not know much about his fight against cancer the last couple of years. That is another foul against the Firebirds. And if anything, you even got sharper the last couple seasons that he was out there. And just amazing. Shot in the goal for Yamada. He now has 2 goals in the game as they capitalize on the 2-man advantage to the Vikings to make it 18-4. Foul was called against Sam Wallace. It was 1 minute for a slash. That should get released. The unsportsmanlike conduct call against Joey Workman will continue. So it'll still be Lawrence, a man up, as it is now an 18-4 game. Yes, a presence that will be missed. I saw someone make the case that in the history of the state of Wisconsin, there may not be a more beloved figure than Bob Uecker was for Wisconsinites. And I agree. I 100% agree. So many of us, our parents and grandparents grew up listening to Uecker too, and yeah, just a legendary voice, and again, so influential. You know, some of the voices when I was growing up, the likes of Jim Irwin with the Green Bay Packers was there for many years, and other flag flies. Now this thing's starting to get a little bit sloppy. The EMO did end for the Vikings. By the way, that was the second EMO goal of the season for Lawrence. Second in program history, and just the second time this year that Carthage has surrendered a goal down a man. This is going to get called against Lawrence, though. It's going to be a 1 minute slash against Finn Anderson, the freshman out of Rothschild, Wisconsin. And we'll have a timeout taken. As this one started to get a little bit chippy. Check on who the timeout is called by during the break. 18-4 is your score with 10:46 remaining in the fourth. This is Firebirds Lacrosse. So, just for the record, on the scoreboard right now, they're still showing the foul against Sam Wallace. However, Wallace was released, so that foul is no longer in play. It should be the Firebirds currently on the EMO right now. Wallace not in the box at the moment. Back to the action. 18-4. Firebirds on the EMO right now. As we were talking quite a bit during the last segment about the legacy of Bob Uecker, longtime Milwaukee Brewers baseball broadcaster. And again, I am fortunate in this business to get the chance to be around some of the folks who are involved with broadcasting in a variety of different ways. I consider Jeff Levering to be a friend, does a lot of the Milwaukee Brewer games. Of course, had a very heartfelt tribute to Uke when he started the first spring training broadcast for the Brewers this year, and was nearly in tears at the end of last season, knowing that that may have been Bob Uecker's last game, and it turned out to be when the Brewers ended up losing to end the year. A little turnaround shot and a goal for Andrew Fry. We'll take pause from the discussion of Bob Uecker's broadcasting legacy to tell you the Firebirds make it 19-4. He's now got a hat trick on. They does Fry. And the Firebirds are back up 15, 19-4. Also, Josh Mauer, in addition to doing some stuff for the Brewers, every once in a while, works with Marquette. So I've had the chance to run into him. Worked a Marquette women's lacrosse game a couple weeks ago. And, they talk about how influential Uke was on them as well. And I even look, and we talk about Peter Ferrari, who does so much of the work here at Carthage. And a guy like Andrew Siss, who's going to be working with Carthage baseball this year. And I'm excited about that. I've worked with Andrew with the Racine Raiders football team. A little bit north of here at historic Corlick Athletic Field. Long-time semi-pro program. Back-to-back national champions, the Racine Raiders, in fact. And historic organization's been around for close to 70 years. And, for the young and up-and-coming broadcasters who are getting opportunities now, to have had a legend like Bob Uecker that they've been able to listen to and learn from. And some of these other guys that have had experience and listen to the likes of the Ernie Harwells and the Vin Scullys, the Grace. Good stuff. Shot taken by Matt Crosser, bounces off the back of Lawrence Longpole Carter Walroth, and possession momentarily for the Vikings, but they lose it. Jacob Cameron gets it back, takes a shot, but there was no one back behind the net, so when it goes wide, possession goes to the Vikings just because Tyler Graham is in goal. And ultimately, it is up to the broadcasters like us, the young guys, to learn from the older veterans and to carry on the tradition, and that's what we try and do. And that even applies, and I know we're talking a lot about baseball here during a lacrosse game, but you carry things over from different sports, and ultimately it is about describing game and trying to be as vivid painting a picture as you need to be. And I want to emphasize as you need to be. Of course, Bob Uecker was on radio. Here we are doing a streaming video broadcast, so we don't need to tell you everything because more than likely you're seeing a lot of what's going on. But at least to give you the information that you need to know, to try and add something to things is for the likes of all of the fans out there. And baseball is such a part of the fabric of America. You talk about big three sports, if you will, baseball, football, and basketball. Don't really need to tell you as much about how the game works in those sports. Maybe some of the small quirks of baseball, and certainly with football and the rules seemingly changing all the time, you sometimes have to point out some of those things. But with some of these sports that maybe folks aren't as familiar with but are getting to know more, soccer, we've seen it over the last quarter century here in America. That shot that gets saved comes off the stick of Judah Goring. Nice save for Connor Kiergaard. Lacrosse, certainly. One of the neat things here at Carthage is they have water polo. And maybe some of the ins and outs of that sport are unfamiliar to folks. Carthage, the only program in the state to have Division III water polo. So, as you try and introduce new fans to these sports, you want to know the subtleties of the game and tell some of the stories of some of these players that are out there. And That's all part of what goes into having a good broadcast. So I know I'm going a little tangential here in this fourth quarter, where Carthage does have this 15-goal lead, 19-4. But yeah, we've been happy here on live.carthage.edu to bring you all these different sports and have voices. And again, credit to the likes of Sam Boyle and all the folks in the athletic department for making sure to have voices here to tell you about these things. And yes, as much as we have been influenced by the great voices in our pasts, the Pat Summeralls, the Ian Eagles, the Jim Nances, and I've even had the chance a couple rare occasions to interact with Jim Nance, the legendary broadcaster, the Masters, NCAA tournament, Super Bowls, NFL Today, you name it. Jim Nance, one of my top influences. Jim Nance and Bob Costas, really two guys that have been a big influence on my broadcasting style. But shot on, saved by Tyler Graham, Bennett Pronk, taking that shot. We try and carry that tradition on at whatever level it may be. I always like to say when it comes to broadcasting, there are more good voices out there than there are broadcasting jobs, especially at the highest levels. And it is a privilege to get to do any broadcast at any level. You know, you don't have to be one of the guys doing NFL games or NCAA tournament games on CBS and Turner in order to feel privileged to get to do this for any sports. We do get a couple new guys coming on here. By the way, both timeouts that have been taken in this quarter thus far have been taken by Carthage, this half we should say. So 2 timeouts remaining for Lawrence if they should need them. But again, at this point, a lot of those things are just elementary. Even the officiating crews at this point are probably thinking more about, all right, what do these teams want to accomplish here at the end of this contest in terms of just staying organized and trying to work on a few things. 19-4 again, Carthage with this lead, up 15, a 4.5 left, but we do our best to try and keep these broadcasts interesting and entertaining for you. That is our job as broadcasters. 6 on the shot clock. Taking a shot that is on frame, so if Lawrence can win the ground ball, it will go to them, or they cannot. Their Kiergaard is the one who's able to stop the Lawrence attack. Clear. Successful for the Firebirds. Near side, Jacob Cameron. Henry Arnold has a goal in the game. To the far side, Colin McClure also has a goal. Over to this side, Prosser. Coming forward, Kyle Sisney. But it is ultimately about sharing our knowledge and love for whatever sport it may be that we are talking about, and for the institutions as well. Again, all respect to Lawrence for adding men's lacrosse to their arsenal of sports. And as always, as a broadcaster, I am thankful for every opportunity I get to be on the airwaves with all of you, including here at Carthage College. Even on a day like this, where this game was largely decided in the first few minutes and Carthage took command of this one, getting 9 goals before Lawrence even got on the scoreboard. But it is still a privilege and an honor to be with you here on live.carthage.edu and be bringing you Carthage lacrosse, including that goal scored by Matt Prosser. Prosser puts it past Tyler Graham.
And a Firebird goal by number 6, Matt Prosser.
And change that first digit on the Carthage score graphic to 20, as they are now up on Lawrence by 16, with 3:11 remaining in the fourth. As a broadcaster, sometimes too, you do end up working some of these games where the final score ends up being lopsided in one direction or another. Both Sam Boyle and I worked for a while at another Division III institution in Milwaukee, Alverno College, all-women's school. They had a soccer program where at one point in time they had a goalkeeper who led all divisions and genders in total saves as well as shots faced. And her goals against average per game was still up around 6, 7, maybe 8. it was at times a struggle for Alberno to find 11 players to put on the field for lacrosse, for soccer games, we should say, and taking players from other athletic teams, some of whom had never played soccer before. And accordingly, when you're going up against some of the programs in the NAC, the Northern Athletic Collegiate Conference, that have full rosters of 30 players who maybe even would have been good enough to play at the Division I level, you take on those teams, you end up with some games that end up being 14, 15, 16, nothing. Shots end up being something like 60-2. But, I did some of those games and talked a lot about the nature of soccer. We've had conversations about the nature of lacrosse, Division I lacrosse around Midwest, some of the subtleties of the game. Try to keep your interest in any way we can out there in internet land. And again, the sport is growing. Men's lacrosse programs, of course, at Marquette. University of Michigan's got a very good program. Notre Dame, a national championship caliber program. That shot goes off the side of the net. Kyle Sisney took it. Running around to pick it out from the back crease is Tyler Graham. Minute and a half left in this contest. Of course, lacrosse is a very popular program in the northeast part of the country. Great program at Johns Hopkins. We mentioned Navy, Joe Amplo out there. They do love it in Maryland. Terrapins have a good program. Hopkins in Baltimore. Empty net. Shot goes wide. That's going to be one that Henry Arnold wants back. Possession goes to the Vikings with a minute remaining. Along the East Coast there. Kind of the cradle of lacrosse, if you will. Popular sport in some of the Canadian provinces as well. Of course, originally a sport played by a number of the Native American nations. You still see some of the native presence on college rosters across the country. But again, becoming just more popular all around. A sport not that, for some of the folks who maybe don't want some of the physical contact of football, want some of the speed and strategy basketball and hockey, lacrosse is a great alternative. Becoming more affordable to play, more programs are out there. A lot of kids growing to love it. Lawrence Vikings have a program now. Their program is going to fall to 0-3 in their program history. But here in this 2025 season, your Carthage Firebirds are now 6-0 as they come away with a 20-4 victory over this young Lawrence program here at Keller Field on a Sunday afternoon in Kenosha. A 20-goal day for the Firebirds. 3 Firebirds record hat tricks on the day. The reigning CCIW Player of the Week, Andrew Johnson, with 4 goals and 4 assists on the afternoon. Alec Kern also with 3 goals and 3 goals for Andrew Fry. And the Firebirds' unbeaten season rolls on as they take care of the Vikings here on the home turf this afternoon. Firebirds take care of business. 20-4 is your final score. We will have some final stats coming up for you after a quick pause. This is Firebirds Lacrosse. The victory bell will ring out across Kenosha in just a few moments as the Carthage Firebirds get the victory over the Lawrence Vikings. Score graphic went to 0-0 there before we went to break because they turned off the scoreboard. 20-4 is your final score. No, they did not take away all 24 goals in the game. Hey, let's get everyone back out there. Gotta replay this one. Sorry about that, folks. No. Carthage, with their second win in as many days, the Lawrence Vikings fall to 0-3 on the season. The Firebirds now 6-0 to start this year. That matches their start in 2021. The last team to go 6-0. Best start in Carthage history was in 2015 when the Firebirds went 10-0 to start the season. Final stats for you up on the left side of your screen. The Firebirds win by 16. 15 of those 20 goals had assists for the Firebirds, just one of the four for the Lawrence Vikings. Shots almost 3-1 in favor of the Firebirds, 62-26. Carthage on the day. Firebirds also won at least 2 ground balls to every one that Lawrence was able to pick up, 58-23 on that number. The Firebirds were perfect, 17 of 17 on the clear day. 3 failed clears for the Vikings, 15 out of 18 on the clear for them. And the Vikings, 18 turnovers of the day. The Firebird had 12. Individual numbers, you mentioned Johnson with the 4 goals, Gurn and Fry with 3. You had Angelo Cullen with 2 goals today. Also Landon Bakke with 2 goals. 1 goal each for Colin McClure, Matt Prosser, Chad Coleman, the Pogo for the Firebirds, who just had a spectacular day. 18 of 19 on faceoffs for the day for Coleman. Bennett Prock had a goal. Ben Kroc had a goal. And Henry Arnold got his first goal of the season for the Firebirds, who again were just dominant in every way statistically. Coleman with 13 ground balls on the day. 3 other Firebirds had 4. In terms of cause turnovers, 3 Firebirds did cause them: Thomas, Mobrotten, and Schugel. On the other side, for the Lawrence Vikings, a multi-goal day today for Iori Yamada. He had 2 goals. That doubles his season total coming into the afternoon. He now has 4 on the season. All-time leading goal scorer in Vikings history. Also, goals today for Camden Waters and Judah Goring for Vikings.
The work will continue for the Vikings program and Mikey Zadroga, but David Neff and his Carthage Firebirds are now 6-0 on the season, and the Firebirds do get that victory, as expected today, really, over the Lawrence Vikings by the final score of 20-4. Firebirds now end up going on the road for a few contests. They will be at Hope College on Saturday in Holland, Michigan. Then they will face Cornell in Iowa on March 12th. That will be a Wednesday. They'll be up at Concordia. Talked about another school up on the lakeshore north of Milwaukee. That'll be on Saturday, March 15th. But we will next be back here for Carthage Firebirds men's lacrosse when they take on Northland College all the way from the northern part of the state. Ashland, Wisconsin, coming down from Lake Superior. That'll be at 2 o'clock on Wednesday, March 19th, when the Firebirds will take on Northland. Be sure to join us on live.carthage.edu. Let's also take a look at some of the other events coming up. The very good Carthage men's volleyball team will be taking on North Park on Wednesday night, 7 o'clock. Tune in for that one. Hey, we got some baseball for you. Get out and play in the mud a little bit. The Carthage Firebirds on Wednesday, March 19th will take on the Lakeland Muskies at 1 p.m. Of course, we'll also have that men's lacrosse game against Northland that day, and then after that, it'll be the women's lacrosse team taking on the Falcons of Concordia University, Wisconsin, after the men get done at 5 o'clock. And then on Saturday, March 22nd, once again, it'll be the Spikers, the volleyball team. They will be taking on Loras College. Start time for that one, 3 o'clock. Bookmark it. Have it in your favorites. Keep it in a tab on the right side of your screen. Whatever you got to do, make sure you're tuning in for more Carthage Firebirds athletics in the coming weeks. That'll do it for our broadcast today for Art Keller Field. Thanks to all of the staff. Executive producer Mike Love. Producer John Voinovich. All our folks on cameras today, including Marissa Simon and Yam Bumba. Finally got that pronunciation right. Graphics, Jeremy Swatzik. Owen Haleko, our director today. My name is Dan Pfeifer. I'm saying be a fan. Thanks for joining us, and do tune in again the next time when we are here for Carthage and Northland at 2 p.m. on March 19th. Once again, your final score from Art Keller Field today, your Carthage College Firebirds remain unbeaten on the year with a 20-4 victory over the Vikings of Lakeland. This has been a presentation of Firebird Broadcast Productions. Have a good rest of your Sunday, everybody.